And we are live. Welcome back to the stream, everybody. What a night, you know. Most evenings we come here to face off against all hordes of evil and monsters, but tonight it seems that the tech itself was the true enemy. Appreciate everybody's patience, and so tonight we have decided to take a bit of a different direction. As our Foundry instance is not playing ball with us, we'll have to take that and do some fixing. But hopefully, we'll still have a chance tonight to have a bit of a chat, just hang out with everybody in chat, and use this time to kind of do a bit of a check-in with the crew to see how everybody's feeling about the campaign, seeing how their characters are progressing. Talk a little bit about all of those plot threads that we've been sprinkling for the last couple of weeks, and hopefully give everybody at home a chance to catch up with some of the things they might have missed. And we'll look forward to jumping back into the action next week, Thursday. How's everybody's week been?
It's been a week for me. It's been pretty full on.
It's been a week.
Been a week.
I'm actually doing a presentation about D&D character creation for work tomorrow. So
What?
that'll be fun.
For what?
Paid.
Can you
That's
record
like-
it?
Yeah, I'm going to show everyone how to create a D&D character.
Can you record it and send it to us?
It'll be super fun.
How does that map to work?
No. What?
How does that map to work? Like, is it a work?
I can show you. My friend made a really cool keynote though. Because it's Friday and like we've been in lockdown. Like my workplace has been
Did you
closed,
say a really
so
good keynote?
just to make it interesting.
What do you do? Work for Apple or something? Keynote.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, but it's actually bloody sick. It's amazing. Like my friend made it. It's so cool. Like you tap on a picture. Like so, I have like the list of all the races from the player's handbook, and it doesn't matter which like character or picture you like click on, it takes you to that slide.
That's pretty nice. That's well done.
So I don't know. I thought it was amazing. So
I watched a TED talk about people programming.
he did a
PowerPoint,
really good job.
which is
Programming
pretty nuts.
what?
Well, basically, because you have the ability to skip to any slide, you can effectively build out all the logic of what your presses do. So somebody built a calculator in PowerPoint,
Yeah.
and you could then switch to the different result screens so that it would give you like every number from 1 to 1,000, and it would just bring up the slide that matches your calculation.
Oh my god! Why?
Like you can do kind of like a makeshift app, like a prototype for an application on Keynote.
Inflatable Cat,
As well?
what is background music?
Yeah,
We
I'm
want
trying to
some-
figure it out.
Sweet. You got that covered?
Well, we can certainly try.
I trust you completely, Jez. So yeah, jumping into some D&D related queries. So how are we all feeling? How's the campaign progressing? Your character sort of enjoying the journey they're on?
I don't know. I think I might go join Fate Script.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Such an
Checks
asshole.
out.
I am a shit stirrer. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm enjoying. I'm enjoying playing. I'm enjoying Fenry. I'm enjoying Fenry's story arc. Trying not to get too emotionally involved because characters die. That happens, as we saw in our last campaign.
Yes, indeed.
But yeah, no, it's good. And slowly beginning to open up to different members of the party for different reasons, and like that last little bit last session with Raya, that was like, no.
It was really sweet to see Raya start to get a bit involved. And although Raya didn't reciprocate as much, it was nice to see regardless.
He's just never been hugged before.
It's the first time for everything. And how's Finnery sort of dealing with the new direction, the new power struggle, the new dynamic that's forming?
He's still determined that he doesn't see anyone as like being his better. Like it's a level playing field for everyone. Like he doesn't think that he's better than everyone. He might act that way sometimes, but he doesn't think it. Hence why he chatted to a literal god like he would a normal person, and
Not phased at all.
not phased at all. And he's determined. He's like, I'm gonna make this guy my friend. We're gonna be best buds.
Now, Carlos, what kind of an arc would it be for Khalil to come full circle and befriend a mere mortal?
I don't know. That sounds impossible. That's like roll consecutive 20 d20s and get a nat 20 on each one.
Hey, by the way that Finnery was rolling last session, that's not entirely impossible.
Well, he did get killed by kobolds on us, so...
Oh yeah. I mean, but prior to that, it was going.
Maybe you could explain to chat why does Malchus have such a good understanding, or Carlos have such a good understanding of Khalil?
Indeed.
Oh, yeah.
Good point. So I might be a dungeon master, as some of you know, and I've played a few campaigns.
What? Really?
I know. I'm sorry to bring it out to you.
Prove it. Show us. Load up Foundry.
Yeah, I'll throw you guys into a session in a minute. And my first ever game that I ran was a home game with a few friends from our hometown, and Carlos was one of those players. And if you want to give a bit of a background there, Carlos.
Yeah, so this was back in what, 2015?
Probably.
Something like that, 2015, around them. I think I joined a little bit after it started, a couple weeks after it started, but back then it was pretty, up and down. Not many people were coming. It was very inconsistent. Anyways, time went by and I stuck in there. It was very consistent. And then, I played Khalil. He was a high elf sorcerer who had his family killed by a god accidentally, and so my character wanted to get revenge on the god.
From level 1.
Yeah, from level 1. And he was a hyper egotistical character. From level 1, he was saying, "Oh, I'm the greatest sorcerer in the world," and so on. And then, but just kept somehow managing to, challenge the odds and show up as extremely powerful. Like there was the situation where like the court wizard of the city, I think I was still like level 2 or 3 or something like that, extremely low. And I just got extremely lucky, crit every single spell I hit, ended up killing him in like one round. It was insane. And then repeatedly things like that happened, and ended up becoming a god by the end of the campaign, along with the other characters. Oh yeah, we were stacked. Oh my god, we were just unkillable. I think one of our like final fights, it was like we fought Tiamat and then a Tarask, and then the final big bad. And we destroyed them. Yeah, it's insane.
Damn.
Now you're a god. And now you're a god.
So the that campaign was set in another realm, and the gods of chaos were basically fighting to overwhelm the gods of order to effectively catapult the world into chaos. And the party had fought hard, and the only way they could really win was by actually fighting in the pantheon to try and tilt the side of the battle in order's favor. And they got up there. The gods managed to bring them in, and the first fight they had, the gods of chaos got the upper hand and nearly destroyed their entire world. And every god that was there put their power together in the moment of their undoing, and gave Khalil one wish.
Cool.
Yep.
What did you
Went
wish
back
for,
in
Khalil?
time, to go back in time. I can't remember the exact time frame. I think it was a fair amount, and then from that, with the extended time and knowing the plans of the agents of chaos, we were able to go into the land and then stop them before certain key things happened, which gave us the
managed
edge
to
in the
like
final fight.
reverse time but maintain power level, maintain memories, maintain items. The perfect wish. It was like it was written by a lawyer.
We spent so long writing it to getting the words exactly right, and we're like, oh god.
Well, I guess you don't want to get something mixed up and it not do exactly what you say. It's like, those wishes are granted by a genie. You say one word wrong or say something, it just ends up backflipping on you.
I tried. I had a good think about how I could give my enemies even a chance at a heads up, and couldn't find a hole, and it ended up just with them steamrolling the entire pantheon of chaos. And,
Well, I guess it happens.
Yeah, and as a result, that entire party ended up being promoted into godhood. What happened to the god that you try to get revenge on, Carlos?
Ooh, yeah. So, well, there's multiple different theories going around. Which one is canon? Who knows?
Oh, here we
what I
go.
mean?
Let's all get comfortable.
So, it's either there's a few options. One of them is Khalil just deleted them from existence. They no longer exist. They're gone. Another one is that Khalil had mercy on them and forgave them. Didn't.
That sounds
didn't
like
wanna-
Khalil.
Yeah. Recognized his ways at the end. No, definitely not. Maybe. And another one was they merged together into one as the ultimate form of karma. And I think there's a few more theories, but who knows which is the true one.
It's the one where he went to train Kaja and tried to smite a poor little halfling who just lost his mother and sister.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny, with Khalil having lost his family to now you losing your family. It's kind of there's a lot of similarity there, and I think that's pretty cool to kind of see history repeat itself like that.
That's why we'll be best friends.
Yeah,
So,
you both lost your
for
families.
a little bit of background for why he smited you. A lot of it comes from the idea that if there's a follower of mine, I want them to be, cream of the crop, top of the top, number one, super powerful. And if they can't, survive just even a smite, if they can't even come back from that, what use are they? They're just useless. They're trash. I don't want them anyway.
So
And the
not
fact
so
that
much
you
not so much powerful, just extremely fucking lucky.
Yeah,
Hey, to be
Yeah.
fair, that's how Khalil got where he was, from pure
It's
luck.
true. This is very true.
yeah, not false.
Oh, that was awesome. So I think it's worth chatting a bit about some of the other characters and how they're progressing and how they see their characters fitting into the group. Obviously, we've been going for a little while now. We've got a chance to sort of feel out our characters a little. Maybe go around and let us know sort of how you feel your character fits, how you feel they've developed, where you think that they're going, why they're sort of along for the journey. Dave, you want to have a crack at it?
Sure. So I think Harm, who's a death cleric, has been very sheltered up until kind of the beginning of this campaign. His 5 years, his history, he's just kind of chilled in various temples, and the last few years he's been following Anubis and learning how to be a weapon. And so getting out, being amongst different people, going and seeing different things, being at the mine to fight that bule, going on travel, seeing gnomes or dwarves drop out of the sky. Like, these are all new things, right? Like, these are all things that are just opening his eyes up to the world around him. So it's interesting. Finri asked him some questions a while ago about, like, does he have his own plans and things like that? And he was very much just like, I do what Anubis wants for me. But I think it's as he like sees more and more of the world, I think he's going to have more and more of an opinion about things. So I'm keen to see where that goes.
Nice. And already making a bit of a mark on the world in a few ways. I think you're the first person I've ever named a location after while they are still playing.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about revisiting it at some point once I've got some like animate dead spells and stuff and go back and get them back.
Make like a little like horror theme park where it's just
Love it.
Love
it.
Dead.
Yeah.
Nick, so with Flint, we obviously have a bit of a link to the circle we're traveling to.
Yeah, indeed.
Maybe give a bit of context about that, and also have a bit of a chat about where Flint's at and Flint's headspace.
Well, yeah, his headspace is probably more. He wants to find out more about these circles, as he was given this book right at the start. I mentioned it. He was given the book from his mother on her deathbed, basically, and he's been obsessed with this research ever since. He's been studying Vermont. Is it Vermont? I can't pronounce. Yep. Which we sort of may or may not pass. I'm not sure what we're going to do. But yeah, so he's been traveling ever since, trying to find where these circles are, up until right to the start of the first session, where we obviously took off and went to Galnesh, and we found those ruins, which led us on a complete journey, and now we're sort of on the way to the second circle, which I'm sort of looking forward to finding out a bit more history, and obviously me as a character as well, find out more of what my mother and what role did she play in these circles. So that's the whole circle thing anyway. I'm not looking forward to the next part of the journey, which is on a boat, because my father lived in Pine Moor. That's where I firstly grew up before I moved to Vermont with my mother. And yeah, he was a sailor. He was always on the water. And last time I was with him was pretty much the last time I ever saw him, was he went out on a boat and disappeared. So yeah. Yeah, well, as far as I know, yeah, he could be dead or could not be. So my headspace is a bit all over the place. The party is I've seen they're very getting close and knit, more tight, but we'll see how things play out.
So a bit of a question for you.
Yep.
Were you the only one that knew of your research of the circles?
As far as I know, no. I'm pretty sure someone else at Vermont was also...
You had
an interest in it.
Accomplice.
Yes, but he sort of... Yes, well, I don't want to sort of to spoil that too much, but yes, there was an accomplice with me, but he seemed disinterested towards the end. Yep, he seemed disinterested and sort of left, and I just went off and did my own research as fast as I could as soon as I got this book. So he actually doesn't know I have this book. So we'll leave it at that for now. I don't want to spoil too much.
Little tidbits here and there. Oh, this is chaos, team. These backgrounds.
Yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't just me waiting.
Okay, jumping into to Malchus. How are you feeling about Malchus, Carlos?
Malchus. He's getting there. I think the conversation with Hector has had a pretty large impact on Malchus's, decisions and goals going forward. I don't think he'll be so set on, taking vengeance against his family as he was in the past, and more so trying to do something positive in the world. Probably something to do with his sword, figuring out maybe how to free her, how to something like that. Who knows?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Then we have Hector.
Can't hear Jeremy.
Apparently.
Oh,
So
I
little
can
cat's
hear it.
gotta hear the
Oh.
good content.
Oh, how about now? But now I hear myself.
Yeah, you gotta check whether or not the stream can hear you, because we could hear you, but the stream couldn't.
How about that?
I'll still wait. I'll just pick Dave's nose.
How about that?
Let us know if you guys can hear Jeremy.
I hear myself a little bit, but that's okay. I can survive.
Yes,
Right.
apparently it's good.
So Hector's a bit looking back on this journey, wondering how he ended up on it in the first place. I know he started out trying to find an elixir, this mysterious thing which his master had noted down in this notebook, and he knows in the back of his mind it's there for a reason and has more for it to be unlocked. So yeah, I mean, like it's very much connected to these crystals, the crystal occurrence, and all these things which are popping up. Meeting these people, these others, and gives him good cause, good reason to travel the continent and try and track down and unlock the secrets of this thing. But I think there's going to be more that we learn about Hector as he starts to dig into more of his master's journal and find out really what's going on there. So there's still lots to learn. There's still lots which I haven't figured out about Hector. And once from when we started the campaign, we had backstories written. Hector's backstory has further evolved since then. So I'm still a little bit in the dark. But I think he's got a few screws loose, to be honest.
I think there's a good direction that that Hector's traveling, and I like the transition a little bit as the character sort of gained a little bit of a personality outside of the backstory. So loving that so far.
Yeah, he's good fun to play. He's like, as an artificer, he's hard to play because playing a utility character is a bit weird, I think. But I think he's gonna start to learn a few more tricks as we evolve.
But like just some of the stuff that we've already sort of done with him, like you're using the vials as sort of a spellcasting mechanism, which is awesome and really engages into that aesthetic. And then the downtime crafting your what is it, the wrist cannon?
The wrist cannon, the bracer blades. Yes.
The bracer blades. That was really fun, and it was a really awesome time of being able to craft that. And then the last of the group, Asteria. Ahinsa, do you want to have a bit of a chat of where Asteria is?
I think something I
and
did
sort of
something.
how she's faring in this journey.
Can you see me? I did something and I don't know what
Yeah.
I did. Okay, perfect. Well, how did I get a background?
She's not there.
Sorry, guys.
Can't hear us.
To be
I've got to check if I have her muted, but I can't
um,
actually see her in our stream at the moment.
Neither can I.
I can see it.
I
Wait,
can see
you
it in the
can't?
stream, but that's it.
Hello?
I can see it everywhere.
Can you hear me?
I can
Hang
see
on.
All places. I can
We're
hear
trying
you,
to figure it
Ahinsa.
out.
You and your glorious
sweet.
background.
I can
okay,
hear you
so,
in the
like,
stream,
to
so
be
go ahead and
honest-
give us your answer, and I'll just listen to it on stream.
To be honest, I'm kind of like Asteria's kind of feeling really lost. She's kind of rolling, kind of going with the motions, but it's really hard because like she kind of went there to find out more about her power, but she's kind of like, oh, she's got this, she's good at it, but I don't know, like she doesn't really have any motivations right now. Like that's where I'm actually kind of really stuck with her because I don't know, like in my head I keep feeling like she's like Soraya, so I kind of get in my head too much because I want them to be super different. I don't know, like I feel like I'm kind of like really lost with her. I actually messaged you, Robin, but you never replied to me. Messaged you like 3 weeks ago, but let's not talk about that. But yeah, like I don't know, like I'm really lost with her, and I kind of don't know where to take it. Especially like I kind of play it pretty loose just to see how it develops, but like I'm really failing in this instance by not having such an. But yeah, I really have no idea what I'm doing, to be honest. All Hysteria with Hysteria.
I reckon.
Yep.
Can I have a question? Yeah. Does Asteria know why she has stars on her body, or she just woke up one day and is like, "Oh, stars, dope," and just like continued on?
Oh my god, that's really smart. See, like this is what I mean. I'm just really dumb. Like, oh my god, like.
To be fair,
do like a
I thought you. Finry thought that Asteria knew why. He just hadn't gotten around to asking her about it instead of just like setting her up with.
The biggest shock for me was, I based my elves off like Forgotten Realms, kind of OG Player's Handbook high elves where they had the blue moon elves and the sun elves, and I based my aesthetic off her. And then next thing I know, I'm in the middle of the stream, and then Robin's like, blue elves aren't normal, and I'm like, what? Wait, what do you mean they're not normal? And I'm like, what is happening right now? But that is a great point, and I don't know, I think I just need to sit down and take some time. I think because also I'm playing 2 other games, so I'm like all over the place as well. So I think I really need to take some time, sit down, and figure out Hysteria. Maybe we can do it during recaps. But that is a great point about stars in a body.
You could really lean into that. Though.
I'm just face palming.
There's got to be a reason. Like maybe it's something to do with the circles.
Like, the whole reason she went out to the place. Yeah, well, the whole place she went there was.
Maybe it's a secret pathway. We just don't know it yet. Another way to get to different planes.
And that's why she went there, but like nothing's happened since then, and she's kind of just tagging along. So that's why she's kind of.
You haven't found a party to belong to, or a magical item that transforms into a bow.
I mean, there's that, but like she's kind
finding yourself involved with a massive plot with the fairy kingdom.
I feel like she's just. Yeah, but I don't know. Like, I feel like she's not really
nothing at all.
Connected. She's like going with the flow, but I don't know. She's kind of just sort of like I don't know. Like to her, everyone else kind of seems like to have their own motivations and all their conviction, and she's like, I have none of that. I'm just kind of like, I got a feeling, and now I'm here. Whereas everyone else has a lot more depth and stuff, and she's like, I have no depth. And I think that is kind of reflecting on me as well. So I'm sort of like, I don't know what to do. But yeah. Thank you for listening to my spiel.
Definitely.
And
there's,
I don't know. I'm hoping maybe I can do a one-on-one with Robin.
Some wings
that could help
in the future.
Wings?
You a burp.
Sorry, what?
Well, how would that work though? Robin, how would that work?
A good question. We will surely find out whether Asteria ever gets her wings.
Interesting.
Well, if she dies the next session, like maybe.
Does
she float?
Considering she's
Back to known working products like Roll20 and Skype.
Hey, I heard the audio.
Yeah, I heard you then.
Works now.
Okay, sweet.
It's back.
It's back. Yeah, we weren't just complaining about software. It's fine. It's all good.
They heard me say we're going to leave this platform. They started working again.
Interesting. Conspiracy.
The software is alive. We've heard it here first. Awesome. So I think to sort of further on that discussion, it would be nice to hear about, I guess, out of character, where you guys have sort of picked up on the state of the world, and what you think is sort of in front of you, and what threads you have at the moment that are in play, just to kind of get an idea of how you guys are sort of faring at the moment. Anybody got some tidbits they want to share? Some theories?
So,
I feel like just before we get into theories, I feel like the world has a lot of normalness to it at the moment. Like we've been to see there's crystal smiths. They build things with crystals. Like that seems like an odd thing in a world like if it wasn't normalized. And there's still like a city guard and there's still thieves guilds. Like it seems like there's a lot of normal things in this world still. And there's still a richer ruling class that have nice mansions and internal courtyards and stuff. Like I thought there was going to be more ruin in the world. I think is interesting that it's kind of in these 5 years, it's kind of returned to normal a little bit. I thought that was just something interesting I picked up on as we've been playing through.
maybe that's just the country where we were in.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I
We
was
haven't
about to
travelled
say-
all of it yet.
yeah. I was
Like,
about to say
I-
the same. It depends where you are, right? Because I think in Galneed, their capital, Asen's port.
Yep.
Asen's, yeah, that was just see the whole entire capital just destroyed by these giant crystals. I think is there anywhere in Nanda that was destroyed by the crystals or no?
Yeah. So
yeah,
as you look at the map right now on stream, you'll notice that to just the north of Avolo, you see those two purple nodes that are on top of each other.
Oh,
Yeah.
So that was a city that was actually wiped out as well by the crystals.
Okay.
Except we just went the
You're
opposite
right.
direction.
So yeah, the name of the place was Biro, and the
Yeah.
crystal is now called Biro's End, which is aptly named for its some circumstance.
I think that was going to be where Finrig was originally going to be from, but then I told you the backstory, and you're like, "Hey, how about this?
How
And I
about
was like,
Prago,
Yeah, I was like,
the slave
"Yes, please."
capital of Trenkasha?
I've noticed this world, like in the cities and stuff, everything seems pretty normal and safe and sound and happy-go-lucky. As soon as you get outside a village or a city or anything, shit's deadly straight away. Like
Yeah,
we
like
had,
you could be killed by a kobold walking out the door.
You
Yeah.
can be killed for throwing
That was kobolds.
sand in someone's face.
Oh,
I think
that's
that
oh
happened in
yeah.
the city.
Did you guys catch in the last episode the kobolds? I think they said something like let me get up my notes. Something like their
She-
mother or something.
got-
Oh
mother,
yeah.
Yeah.
The mother, which I
Mm.
think Jez and I discussed on a different stream. Like, what if it isn't just like a female kobold? What if it's something else?
I think it's a dragon.
Interesting.
A dragon.
Your
I know,
mother's
'cause
not
of my
playing this
mom.
game.
It's your literal mother. I've got
Sorry,
her on
Carlos,
stream.
you don't get the
It's fine.
Yeah.
So like we're throwing around like random ideas because like things are getting weird because like beings can enter from different realms and stuff. So there's nothing to say that like it couldn't be a beholder or something like that that's now controlling all these, or like an aboleth or something just totally otherworldly. It's now in Trankaja because of the crystals.
And now a good question on that, like to sort of dig into that further. How does it feel to kind of become, I guess, small fish in a big pond now from a character perspective? You know, like from being in Trenkasha, you guys were kind of the top dogs, but now with the crystal occurrence, suddenly you have your introduction to these other species and other realms of existence that are obviously so much further along their understanding of magic. How does that sort of feel?
Well, Finrig's
Challenging.
always been used to being very small.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean. We're the main characters.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
got that main character syndrome.
Exactly. we have what we like to call plot armor.
Hey, sometimes that plot armor can work against you.
Oh,
like
yeah,
you
100%.
managed to get yourself into a pact with a god where you cannot be revived now, which is pretty fun.
Yeah,
Nice.
just speak.
I think
Because it's interesting, like
Try to get the
when-
salad fork.
Yeah, the South Fork could do. When we start to look at like these other realms and these wars that have been waging outside of Trenkasha, like at a scale which Trenkasha really hasn't seen before, it's like there's always a chance that something's just around the corner knocking. You know?
What were you gonna say, Jez?
Well, Hector isn't from this land either. I don't know whether or how much magic exists in where he's from. But I feel like it's more than what was his. So for him, he's like, oh, this is weird in a way that he has or knows of more magic than what is here.
Interesting. And it's like I think something that's kind of cool about the setting as well, and I'm very biased, obviously I speak out knowing that I'm thinking of it and thought of it all.
Patting
but
yourself on the back, yeah.
Yeah, like, oh, I'm pretty brilliant. That it's like other people from your perspective who may have come from a place where magic operated differently, like to be kind of handicapped to have to work through the physical magics of the crystals sometimes. Like we looked at how some people have been brewing potions with physical crystals and using them as a direct power source. Something like that probably is quite foreign in worlds where magic was very much a part of the atmosphere, more so than sort of a physical object.
Yeah, the weird thing is that he knows that magic is a thing and it can be done, but he has no clue how to do it. He can only work with potions. So he's still trying. He's still trying to scrape by. He just knows that shit can go wrong.
Well, he can create magical weapons, though. For instance, how does that work?
He does a little bit.
Use something to be +1, weapon or +1 armor.
Yeah. Well, he just makes a really cool potion. You see, then pours it on.
Okay. Cool.
A rubber strengthening potion.
How are you finding things, DM? How are you finding us navigating this world of yours?
Really, really fun. It's coming into its own in a really nice way. At the moment, I've got 3 groups going through this world at one time, and so there's a moment coming up soon, which I won't spoil because I think it'll be really fun. But there's going to be a circumstance where one party does something that then is observed by all the other parties as well at the same time.
It's going to be us, isn't it?
And so there's going to be this really interesting like synchronization where it's going to be like this unification as they all share this joint experience in completely different sessions, which I've never pulled off before, and this is the first time that it's like
That
it's
actually sounds pretty
happening.
cool.
And it's like it feels really awesome to just kind of roll the world forward for everybody and have these very separate actors all sort of working in their own spaces. So that's been really awesome. And I think just as you guys have been delving into this the Seven Circles mystery, it's been really cool to see the other players of the game sort of jump into the fray, and I think we'll start to understand more and more of the politics at play.
Right.
So I'm having a blast and loving all your characters, and Ahinsa, definitely keen to work with you to make sure that you love them as much as I do. But yeah, I hear you're jumping off, Dan.
Yeah, I gotta go. Not feeling hot. I'll see
You're
you
all
guys.
good.
See you,
Yeah, have
buddy.
a lovely
Have
night.
Good night, man.
Bye,
Cheers,
everyone.
Dan. Bye.
Yeah, mate.
Well, I guess I'm going to put this to the group. What tips do you have for me to help be better connected with Wisteria? Because you guys are doing, like, I don't know, like, I love you guys, like, especially Rhea. I'm not Rhea, sorry. Dr.
Oh
Hal.
no.
Hey, good guys. I'll catch you later.
There it is. Like
Oh.
I honestly have
Like-
some pretty simple advice, right? and it's like the reason that all
Yeah,
these other
sure.
characters are connecting with their characters so well is they've kind of taken a defining trait of that character and made it a big emphasis. One example is your tattoos, right? Like those are something that
Yeah.
are iconic to Asteria, aren't involved with any of your past characters, and something that I think you should
Yeah.
lean into more aggressively, because it's like it can be a thing that you use to flavor all of the actions you do. It can be how you do your magic.
Yeah.
You have complete creative freedom about how the tattoos like become a part of your life. And like you
Yeah,
talk
I'm
about,
just so not creative, and I'm like struggling, and I'm like, why am I like this?
and I guess
Why
like
am I
Good
not
question.
creative?
there's a good like everybody interacts with things in their own way, and I know sometimes if you're trying to concentrate on too many things, it can be nice to have a reminder of like what your priorities are. So it's like if you think about Asteria, what is she trying to do? You know, she's trying to figure out A, why she has tattoos, B, why she was given this vision to be here, and you know, you might find some other goals about what she's trying to achieve, and you know, if you keep them in front of you and use them as sort of a lens to play the character, it might be able to help you sort of keep the focus on, you know, those key things that make Asteria unique.
I hear you though, Hinza. Like when you get a bit
Yeah.
stuck, like, okay, I don't know how to play this character next. But I think Robin's spot on. Like, keep that one. What is it? Your ideal or your bond, or one of those two. Like, keep thinking about that.
Mhm.
And if you're really got to figure out the source of these tattoos, whenever we visit towns, make it a big point that you've got to try and find someone that knows something about what you have on you. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like the stars and stuff.
Yeah. And then
That's
I think
really
that
smart.
as you bring that to the fore, the rest of us will start to ask you questions about it, because it must be a big deal for you, and that'll help you think about, okay, why is this important to me? Because you'll have to be put on the spot.
And got a quick question from Inflatable Cat in the chat. The question was, will we see Lair Bleth again? Now, I don't know if you'll see her, but she will truly make sure that she is known to the group in the weeks to come. So whether you spot her will be dependent on your perception checks.
Interesting.
My perception's 18, Robin.
My
past him anyway.
My perception must be shocking, because looking at Harm and Malchus right now, I've got no idea what the hell's going on.
The amalgamation of bodies.
I got a question for Harm, if I can. Harm, how are you finding being one of two death clerics in this endeavor?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we're playing our death clerics very differently.
Was
so
that
it's
planned?
almost. It was not planned, actually. I thought I had a really awesome, unique character. Rocked up. Hey, by the way, I'm also a death cleric.
I didn't tell either of them because I thought it'd be fun to have that bit of a dynamic, but you know, here we are.
So, well, I mean, there is a little bit of difference. So, like, I'm very much attached to my deity, right? Like, so Anubis pops up in every conversation I have. I'm down with everything he does. My big gimmick, or the big hook for my character is directly tied to him. Whereas I really don't know much about Raya, and he's tied to, you know, as a cleric, who he's tied to, what's his deity, how's he tied into that, what's he doing with his time at, you know, that he's spent in service of that deity. So I think that we're very different in the way that we're connected.
Yeah.
You know, not to say that Ray doesn't have that, but I think it's less of a defining factor for him.
Mm-hmm.
He's very much on the good and evil, which he brings up quite a bit. And so I think that even though we're very similar, I think we're very different, which I think is kind of cool. And we can both have a lot of like our own storylines in what we're doing and how we approach characters in, you know, RP and things.
Is Harm, I guess, a little bit wary of Raya, or sees him as like a brother from another mother?
Yeah, more brother from another mother. Yeah, a bit more of that. You know, we're both Death Domain clerics, and we both had that idea or that understanding of the fine line or the grey area that really exists between life and death, right? And you know, Harm's backstory, very beginning of it, is he's a grave domain cleric, which is much more about the transition between, you know, life and death type thing. And so, yeah, I think it's much more of a coexist and, you know, work together and kind of help each other, rather than a you know, butting heads about things.
Nice.
Interesting.
How does everyone else's character view Harm? So for Malchus, I think he looks up to Harm quite a bit. He's like, you know, I think earlier on he was really like, wow, this is like who I kind of want to emulate as a like the vibe he puts off.
Yeah,
for
right.
Malchus. Yeah. I
Interesting.
looked up to him a lot. It was like coming from Noble. He's not really that much of a badass, but he was
Buy a
trying to
book if
be.
you want. I'll take you all about it.
Yeah, well,
To me, he's from my character perspective, he seems very devoted. And I want to find out a bit more about his identity myself as a character. So I'll probably be asking a bit more questions, hopefully down the line.
Get him to teach you guys how to become untargetable in combat. I feel like that's an important skill.
Yeah, definitely.
Wait, that's a thing? I need that shit.
Well,
You managed to avoid one of the most deadly encounters without
That's
even raising a finger.
Literally.
yeah.
I'm not sure that Harm's actually taken a single point of hit of health loss in the entire campaign to date.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
I don't think you attacked me. And the once or twice you've attacked me, you were like you rolled a 7 or something. So, yeah. And the other week you're like you've got a short rest. I was like,
I don't want to see it matter anymore.
We'll help gun. Yeah.
Anyway,
ask Hector and Finnery how they're feeling.
Yeah.
I can't get out of the bloody danger fast enough, apparently.
It's like it's one of those things. Like, is a monster will only attack the brick wall so much before they realize there's better alternatives.
I think there's lots of opportunity to still RP character to character moments as we go through these different travel montages. Because looking like compare this to our last campaign, it feels like we still haven't quite had that bonding moment. Whether that's because there's so many of us or because it's just been action, not sure. Whatever the case may be, we still need to find, I guess, some of those moments. Like, I feel like Malchus and I had a moment, but there's still plenty more to unpack there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're not on friendly terms, I would say.
Oh, right.
We're not unfriendly, but we're not friendly. You know what I mean? Yeah.
More like companions.
Writing that one down.
Well, I mean, it wasn't a very, friendly conversation. You were like very like.
No, sure, but there's still plenty more opportunity to dig into the detail on everyone.
100%.
Oh,
So
definitely.
I guess like a nice lead off from that. It's like, how do you guys feel about the intensity of the campaign? Right, we've obviously had our campaign 1, in which we all sort of got to know each other and learn D&D to begin with, and I think a lot of groups end up with their second campaign being very ambitious because the first one eventually grew into something that was really good. How you guys feel at the moment that the campaign is sort of moving? Is it hitting the right notes? Are you guys do you feel like there's more room for RP, or is there more room for combat? What's the general feel there?
I sort of like the flow it's going at the moment. I feel like we could maybe touch a little bit more on the RP, and maybe not trying to engage in combat every encounter we have, and try to think of ways around that. But other than that, I think the flow seems quite nice, and I'm sort of loving exploring and seeing what's around in this world, because it seems all new, really. So I'm sort of enjoying it.
I think I like it. The combat, if it's necessary, I completely. Some rounds can take a long time because there's so many of us. But what can you do? But I think just to balance that to Nick's point, we have to capitalize on those RP moments and maybe not always go hunting for feathers and curdled milk.
But that's the entire party.
Absolutely, when it makes sense.
Yeah, that's very cool. I think it's been interesting to try and facilitate the RP in the bigger group setting, because it just is one of those moments where, as a DM, if half the players are interacting, they're having a great moment, but I immediately I'm like, oh, there's another 50% who are now sitting there just listening, which is not a bad thing. But I'm like, okay, Limelight is gonna make sure we have the opportunity to split it. So it's been good to. I think there's been some nice moments where we've gotten a bit of individual RP, which is nice, kind of highlighting the individual. Like the downtime was really good for that. I feel like it gave us all a bit of a chance to play in universe as ourselves and kind of let everybody else see what we're like as our characters. And I think more moments like that where I guess each of you have some opportunity for self-expression from your characters would be nice, and give, I think, everybody a bit more context about, you know, who they're traveling with, so to speak.
A question for you, DM. Would you go about trying to, I guess, craft a character-to-character RP situation and try and not force it, but provide that opportunity, or are you more like hands-off? If they do it, they do it?
I think what's worked well for us so far has been hands off for me. You know, I create the context of the world, and it's worked really well when something happens that's heavy. It's provided a lot of hooks for you all to have conversations, not necessarily like engineered for me to be like, ah, yes, this is going to be, you know, dramatic enough for them to have a conversation. But I think there is, just because of the scale of, you know, the amount of people we have, I think in order for some of the paths to cross, like there has to be a bit more thought to go into it about, you know, this is a RP interaction that I think would be good for the growth of characters, but it's not going to reach there without me putting the characters in a very specific sort of situation. You know, one good example of that is we talked a little bit about the nuance between Harm and Rhea, you know, where they, you know, they're very alike, but I think what's really interesting is where they're different. And it's going to be a very, like, for that to happen spontaneously, for those two to have that discussion would be pretty impractical. But if there was a way to sort of produce a moral quandary that highlighted, you know, that difference between life and death and good and bad, and, you know, maybe Rhea was on the side of, you know, we can't kill somebody that's good, but Anubis was like, hey, this is a person in my book. Harm was like, this is a person in my book. That conflict is unique to their relationship, and I think quite a good one to, you know, explore potentially, as an example.
Half of me thinks that they're going to be at each other's throats with differing opinions.
I'm getting to see what
right,
Rhea. I'm getting to see what Rhea thinks of Harm if that were to happen, and would Harm suddenly become evil? Would Rhea have a shot at the title?
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I guess we'll have to wait and see, won't we?
Yeah.
That's one of those examples, but I think there's because of the width of the group, there's a lot of different little places there to have those kind of interactions where, you know, trying to get at the core of how each player is a bit different or each character, and bring that out in RP, I think is part of the fun of what makes D&D such an awesome game.
Yeah, there's still plenty of opportunity left.
I think the biggest thing that would, I think, just take the campaign to the next level and allow all these things would just be more time, honestly. Because I think the last, you know, most of the episodes only end up going like 2 hours, and when you have 8 players, like 2 hours is like barely anything, right? You can barely do much. So I think the time constraints don't help in that aspect.
And it's why we end up like usually hitting a stride a few like you know 10 15 20 episodes in, is because that's when we start to get the ball rolling. We have like that minimum level of understanding of each of the characters, and everything from there gets easier because we've got that foundation to then work from.
How many episodes was campaign 1?
I want to say about 25 to 30.
Yeah, that's the range. Is pretty on point. We're what now? We're leading up to like our 15th episode.
14.
I would worry. I would worry that we're in the prologue almost a little bit, right?
Yeah.
My worry would be, we were talking about going to Pine Moor in like early May, late March. Like that's when that was raised. Should we go to this place? And we're in August now at episode like 13, 15 or something. That's my only concern, is that we've seen one, and that was something we talked about in May, and like. There's a small concern there for me. Like, are we doing other things and just? I mean, Jeremy posted a question earlier just about, in our group chat about some of our motivations, and it was like I was interested to see the response just because of purely like that some of that time frame stuff. If we're not motivated, I wonder if we'll be 25 before we get there. Will we get sidetracked on a boat somewhere or something like that? Not that we have to rush it. Well, yeah. I mean, do we end up in Rafe's hometown? Right, on a magical boat somewhere, sucked into a different realm. We almost lost Jeremy last week. Luckily, he had an awesome saving throw. Right, otherwise he was getting phased out. I worry we're
I know
not.
Robin wants to do Feywild.
I feel like that just adds a bit
Feywild.
more realism and life to the world.
Yeah.
Like you stop. You have to get supplies. You have to earn some money some other way because you might not have enough to get to the next part of the journey. So. I think those little off-puts doesn't really hurt the story so much. It probably adds to it.
Hurts the story. I'm totally down that it adds to it. My concern is like if it's 20 episodes per circle, and we've got to say get through 5 circles because somebody's already been to 2, right? There's 4 more circles. That could be like 60 episodes or 70 episodes.
Yeah.
That's my only concern. I don't know where the story goes from here. Maybe there's a teleport. maybe the circles are all a fallacy and it's all a massive thing about the person who created the crystals that set up for us. Like, no idea. But I was just doing some of the maths during earlier tonight and during the week around how long it takes, and I was like, this is going to be a 300 episodes.
I guess from where I stand, the first campaign, I would say that we got through one of the arcs that I kind of wanted to from a character background perspective. So we went through, and Red Helm had that full arc. We obviously started touching on other people's backstories, but one of the things that this time around is obviously a bit more front of mind is like putting the characters first. And right now we've sort of seen some of that developing as we start to get those character backstories. Definitely, obviously, there was a Finry focus again at the beginning with the sort of whole Khalil circumstance and finding out about his family, and that was obviously the integral part of that story progression. And with a group that's the size, like to get through any meaningful progress on each of your backstories, is going to take us probably a good couple of sessions. So I think the fact that the first one was 25 is only showing that to do a thing that we're all proud of and that does encompass each of the uniqueness of each of our characters might take us up to 80 or 100 episodes over a couple of years. But yeah, absolutely right. Like there is some logistics there, and I think obviously I've considered this a integral part of weekly life for the last year and plus. So I don't see the a looming deadline, but definitely good to keep in mind.
Indeed.
I wonder, like, the Finry's backstory reveal and that kind of arc there was very much like no one else knew what it was. No one else really knew about it. So yes, we're about to see a change in Finry, but I think the rest of us are probably left thinking, what the hell? Really confused about it. So I think we really need to dig into. That's why I think it's really important to dig into each other's RP a little bit and get into more that conversation.
I'm just gonna agree with that.
So we have the support of the group when we try and do these things, and it becomes like a team activity.
Yeah.
Well,
no, that's a good point.
A certain Finry wrote a certain name in Maham's book. And Harm is planning to ask him why that name has been scratched out by Anubis, because he wrote the name Jason into my book. And so I'm not using it as I'm not going to force it, but I'm going to ask him. He's not here to hear this, but I'm going to ask him in a future episode, how come how come this name is being etched out and it wasn't by me? Do you know what happened with this person? Just see where he's at. I think it'd be interesting to see what his character does and says. And,
No,
Yeah.
for sure.
That would be interesting.
Ahinsa, how do you see things developing with Asteria?
I think for me it comes back to the beginning thing where I'm like, I'm such a high powerful level, but I feel like she's kind of done nothing, like she did have that thing with Talus or whatever, but I don't know, I feel like she's like, look, I'm thinking I'm such a high level yet I'm kind of nowhere at the same time. Does that make sense?
Sure.
No, yes.
Yeah, you got the tool, you got the
Yeah,
power, but don't know
like-
how to use it.
Yeah, also I mean, I was kind of just, I don't know, I think I need to get more. I was wanting to do all this stuff for hoping to find for my level 6 level up, and then nothing happened, and I'm like, oh my god, this is so embarrassing. Legit, I leveled up because of my emotions. I was really annoyed with myself about that. But yeah, I don't know. Oh my god, Dave.
Has there been anything that you've seen that other characters have been involved in that you had any questions about, or that left you a bit like, what the hell?
Sorry, say that again.
Has there been anything you've seen that other characters have been involved in or have done that have left you feeling a little bit like, why on earth did they do that? Not that I've got an answer
Yeah,
for it.
no, definitely. I love that all of you had that side quest thing. I love that Hector's making all this stuff, and I love that Finry had that motivation finding it. Even Harm, I got it right. With the full I love those three characters really based on you guys have that. Thank you. That that.
So
to me,
happy
that's,
Harm
such
now.
a huge thing, and I'm really envious. Sorry.
I can die a
But
happy
yeah,
harm now.
I don't know. I think I really need to I think going forward, just listening to everyone, I think I really need to take a day out of it on my day off and just literally sit down with the stereo and rewrite everything. Because I think even starting with the character, I came in with a lot of traditional. Because I always play high charisma characters because it's really easy. So I've never played anything. I've never played a druid. I've never played anything like that. So going into this, I've always been a sorcerer, a warlock. So going into this, it was really hard being a druid, first of all, and I came in with all these prior, kind of concept notions of what a druid is in other campaigns, so a typical druid in the forest, blah blah blah. But then, talking to Robin, he's like, yeah, but not really, and that I think for me it really threw me, in the sense that because of how the time frame. So what really helped me understand that is, has anyone watched Avatar: The Last Airbender? So the time frame for the Trancastia is what core as well it is. So it wouldn't make sense for me to be in tribal village sort of area with a druid, right? So I'm well, I kind of had to abandon that whole thing. I had this whole huge concept, and I kind of had to abandon that. I think that's why I kind of felt really lost as well currently, because I suddenly went into this druid who kind of grew up sort of in a forest, but not really. Kind of in a town and things like that, and then she goes to university. So yeah.
Hey, Ahinsa, druids often very much involved in life things, right? You got 2 death clerics, and I don't know about Ray's plans. He can already raise the dead, and I can tell you now, Harm is about to start
100%.
doing it. So I think there's gonna be a small RP between us to have a little chat about how you might feel as a druid
I
who's
actually spoke to Robin about that, 'cause
spending
I'm
time around skeletons.
No, I actually spoke to Robin about that, because I'm I really don't know how Asteria is going to feel going forward, because I know druids don't like brave, they're zombies, and I don't know if she's going to be comfortable with these 2 death clerics. And then Robin's oh no, you're thinking too much of a traditional D&D. This is completely different. You need to get rid of those notions. We can't have party.
That's exactly his voice too.
So,
Wow,
Hey, Robin.
nailed it.
Oh my god.
How do you feel about that, Robin?
There's 2
Tell
of
us.
me. That's pretty great.
Yeah.
No, so
Put your hair over one side of it.
Completely no, because I was fully gonna have this conflict, and I was totally not gonna like it, and I had this whole thing. But then going back to what
the way
Robin told me about druids and blah 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 in the game, I had to rethink everything. Oh, you
Just
tried
like,
to deny it
I
now.
think-
I have screenshots.
Oh no, I absolutely said
Why
that.
do you have screenshots?
This is my logic though. Is that
I
you know,
don't. It's just
we're
scrolling
looking at
up in
like
the message chat.
we're looking at like a sort of a industrializing world where magic doesn't exist, right? Or it hadn't existed, and therefore, you know, there might have been some superstitions around magic, but there was no way to raise the dead, right? A druid would not have existed except for like, you know, if you were like an older person in a forest, or like more of a wise person for your community, you know, but they didn't actually have any power over life or death. They simply sort of had a bit more of a spiritual connection to the forest. But there was the magic of, you know, reviving and that relation to death is more of like a, you know, at that point a spiritual emotion rather than, you know, being integrally sort of opposite in the magical realm. So it's like, yes, your character can definitely you know, be opposed to death and you know, messing with it, but it's more from a philosophical point of view in your experience with the real world rather than like your sort of magic that's opposed to that. And that's sort of the key difference in sort of, I think the what makes the setting interesting to compared to you know, the more traditional D&D is that there's some nuance in those conflicts that's based on, you know, more recent discovery. You know, maybe as people started discovering that you could mess with the dead, there were groups that decided, you know, no, I don't think we should. You know, it's like right now where we're studying AI and we're sort of talking about maybe we should impose rules upon, you know, what we are allowed to do with AI for the protection of the whole. I think
How long
those
until
type of
Boston Dynamics becomes Terminator?
Thank you. So it's like it's more so it's like, hey, I don't think we should mess with dead things as like a philosophical point of view, and it's not necessarily like, you know, my druidic circle believes that, you know, life is sacred, but more like, hey, I don't think that we should be bringing things back from the dead. You know, what's dead is dead, and what's living is living, and it's more like coming like from an RP perspective, anchoring that belief in something more recent rather than something ancient, and I think that's the difference.
Totally agree with that.
Hey, should we have a quick look at the new battle cam?
Yes, let's
See if we can get
What's
this thing
this?
to go.
the screenshots that Jez was sending in chat about the new camera setup for us battling.
There we go.
Oh,
Check that out.
does look good. That does look good.
That decent battle cam.
I could get
Wait,
better
what
at
am I meant to be looking at? I don't see anything.
The stream.
So if we could get Foundry
no,
working,
my computer
yeah,
would die if I did that.
That would be.
That's
that'd
pretty
be
good.
really
Now we can sort of talk about more about the map. I'd like to know a bit more like about it. Like, what was your most favorite part in building this map?
Oh, favorite part.
But-
See, the fun part about this map, I built it first, not knowing where the crystals would be.
Yeah.
And once I started figuring out about the crystals, I had to go back and, you know, obviously introduce some in places that weren't inhabited. But then I had to go through and actually destroy some settlements with the crystals. And so that was a really fun process, being able to just like sort of start spiking towns with the crystals. And I think the other one that was really cool was from a sort of social point of view, all of these different areas kind of have different types of races that settled there. And it was very early on where I kind of made a very high level decision to sort of do like the elvish core up to the north, the dwarven sort of settlement down to like the southeast, and then the sort of half or at the beginning the orcs to the west. And that kind of influenced a lot of the geopolitical sort of structure. And at the end, I actually came to the decision that orcs didn't exist in my setting.
Okay.
That they were the only half orcs. That at some point during their history, orcs as a sort of pure race were extinguished and just extinguished.
Yeah.
So that's something that came out of world building that I think is pretty fun and
Yeah.
unique.
Sounds like you enjoyed it.
Oh, I do, and I love continuing to build on it as
Yeah.
well. Like the cool thing about like they talk about a well design from like a spiral point of view. So you start off at the point of view from the characters, like what are they experiencing right now, and
Yep.
then you build it out as they begin to explore around them. And one of the things that has sort of happened as this world has been progressing is that each of the groups that come into the world, I've put in different starting locations. So they've naturally started to build the world around them in the way they've interacted with it and in the NPCs they've met. And like it's really being collaborative, because those settings and those places would be entirely different had those people not been the adventuring party that went through them.
Left their mark.
And yeah, exactly. And the cool thing now is that as you guys progress and explore, you're going through territory that has been sort of generated by those other parties, and they've left a very noticeable sort of mark on them. And it's really fun for me as a creator to kind of see you guys sort of experiencing that fun secondhand without all that context, and like noticing little clues and hearing little stories.
Yeah.
Like last session, I mentioned Gizzard the Lizard Wizard, and that was one of the players in another group, and they'd sort of become infamous in that location. And that was kind of a fun nod to some of the past of that location.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I think Asteria.
So what are
Ahinsa
the
has-
other campaigns in the world though?
What are the other campaigns?
Because I know Malchus's one, but are they different to ours, or are they also called the Seven Rings?
They're different. So each of you, I don't want the paths to cross too much, because if I have to lead a party that is 10, 11, 12 people deep, I will die.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
So I've intentionally created stories that are parallel almost. You will notice the effects in like each other's campaigns, but they're not going after the rings, for example. That's something that's unique to your
us.
party specifically.
Ahinsa, do you have to bail?
I do. I'm sorry. I have to work on my presentation.
It's probably a good point to call
Yes.
it for all of us, I think.
Yeah.
Bye. This is fun, and you guys helped a
As much as
lot.
I'd like to keep playing.
But
That's a good. So, a big thank you to everybody that tuned in tonight. I know it wasn't our regularly scheduled content, but hopefully you all had fun listening to our ramblings of our characters and our campaign. Good to show off that beautiful battle map. Thank you again, Jez, for all the hard work you
great
put
work.
into the stream.
Yeah.
Love it.
now we've got to rebuild the
Sick.
server.
And
No.
we'll spend this next week trying to reconcile our virtual tabletop, and come back next week Thursday, hopefully with a boat journey in your future.